Hey there and welcome back to another Dragon Prince video. And today I want to talk about the character of Aaravos. Previously, I've talked a lot about the villains in Dragon Prince, because let's be real, they're some of the more intriguing and interesting characters in the show. In earlier videos, I theorized that the supposed main antagonist Viren was really the mastermind behind the death of the late Queen Sarai, mother of the two series leads, and that ultimately the character of Claudia would become the final villain of the show, or at least one of the most significant antagonists there is. So obviously I needed to finish off the trifecta and make a video on the mysterious star-touched elf, Aaravos, and figure out what his role in the story is going to be going forward into future seasons. And today I'm doing just that. So with all that being said, let's jump into the video. Of all the principal characters in the Dragon Prince, Aaravos is probably the one we know the least about, and a lot of his story's been heavily shrouded in mystery. But I do think we need to go over it in order to come to grips with who the character is and what his story arc's going to be in the coming seasons. Now, most of what we know about the character's past comes from little snippets of conversation with different characters, or various moments of exposition. We know that he was born approximately 5,000 years before the events of the show, and that he's a master wizard of all 6 primal sources as well as dark magic. We also know that he taught the humans of the city Alarian to practice dark magic in order to save themselves from extinction, which eventually drew the ire of the Dragon King at the time, who ended up destroying the city whilst also being blinded himself. We then learn that Aaravos would continue to gradually grow in notoriety until he was imprisoned by the Dragon King with the help of the Archdragons and Elves, with an attempt being made to even erase him from history entirely. So from this information, we can make a fair few accurate assumptions. The first of these is that Aaravos is a bad person. Xadia wouldn't have just turned against him if he was only a very powerful person. I mean, perhaps from their perspective he was a traitor for helping humans, but even then, it doesn't make sense to fully erase him from history unless he was up to some truly heinous activities. So obviously, he was making enemies left and right. Thus, we can also assume he wasn't helping out humanity from the goodness of his heart. He was doing it to sow discord between the factions and ensure that magical beings and humans will be at each other's throats forever. I mean, it was probably his original intent for the Dragon King to go and genocide the city, and for humanity to strike back and kill/maim him, which is precisely what happened. And the best part of all this is he doesn't even have to do anything himself. He just gets to pull the strings from behind the scenes at minimal risk. And all this ties into what his character's been presented as during the course of the show so far. I mean, he's clearly an evil person, as he helps out the clearly evil sorcerer Viren and butchers the Queen of the Sunfire Elves, just because he can. And he helps sow discord and weakness in the Xadian forces, once again showing off his complete lack of morals and his opportunistic personality. And he also keeps pushing Viren into doing more and more dark magic and to push further and further into Xadia, continually using the forces of humanity as his own personal weapon, whilst also facing none of the risk because he's possessing a giant caterpillar with his body safely locked away in a magical prison. And all of this to try and finally wipe out those damn pesky dragons. And even when that failed, it doesn't seem like he even cares, because the last we see of him, he was all cocooned up starting his next big scheme, probably growing himself a new body. And then once he's out, the scheming is going to start up once again, in pursuit of his overall goal. And what would this overall goal be, do you think? To me, it seems likely he wants world domination. Now I know that that's a very bland and unoriginal villain motive, but for him it just works. By pitting humans and elves/dragons against each other, he ultimately weakened the world and sowed discord, dividing it to allow for easier conquest later. He mastered all forms of magic to ensure that he's a feared and powerful combatant, and thus would be able to compete with his more powerful enemies such as the Dragon King. He's also quite committed to the humans invading Xadia, and then he helps turn those humans into mindless slave soldiers. And he also has a bunch of history with the different elves we meet, and it didn't seem like good and wholesome memories either. But how is he going to go about achieving his plan of world domination, considering his first plans fell through? Well, the beauty in it for him is that despite those plans failing, he still comes out on top. Because I'm fairly confident he's going to step out of that cocoon, fully formed and ready to rumble. And first stop on his victory tour is going to be getting full control of whatever's left of humanity's armies, and likely finding some elven allies to help him in his quest. So for the former, he'll probably aim to drive a wedge between Viren and Claudia, likely trying to manipulate Viren even further, although it'd be fun to see him switch his attention to Claudia, before ultimately discarding Viren when he gets what he wants. I also expect he's going to be getting some elven allies coming out of the woodwork very soon, so expect some surprise traitor storylines to crop up eventually, like they did with the human counselor who tricked Ezran. And obviously, he's also going to be going after the Dragon Prince as well. His dad was strong enough to lock him up, so I doubt he's going to take any chances there. But beyond that, there's also 2 more targets that I can see him going after. The Dragon Queen and Callum. For me, the Dragon Queen dying is simply a matter of sowing as much trouble as he can, whilst also taking out a powerful ally of Xadia, and isolating little Zim and preventing him from learning to grow in power from his mama. Plus, he seems like a bit of a jerk, and getting revenge on his rival by killing his wife for fun seems like something he might be interested in. And then he's going to go after Callum simply because he's a human performing unheard of feats of magic. Not dark magic, just standard primal magic. So he's going to want that boy's soul for some dark rituals, mark my words. And of course, this is all going to culminate in a humongous confrontation before all's said and done. But with all that being said, those are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think Aaravos' role in the story is going to be going forward? What do you think his motives and plans are going to be? Is he a red herring villain, or is he being set up to be the final boss, so to speak? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.